So yeah, we'll move on to our final album then, which is Hum by Swim Deep.
This house as big as it can be. Now it's just you, me, and
And this was my pick, as the
Yeah.
shirt probably indicates, dressed for the occasion again. Um, yeah, so Swim Deep, we have reviewed previously on the pod. They're probably one of my favorite UK indie bands of the last decade. Um, well, decade plus now, I should say. Debut album, Where the Heaven Are We, is just like a annual summer staple. Every year I'll return to that record without fail, which I've already done off the back of this record. But it was one of those that Swim Deep are dropping an album in the summer. I'm gonna have to pick it for us to review on the pod. So yeah, they're a band that seem to have survived. Obviously early noughties not early noughties, early tens indie. Um, wasn't quite the wave that early noughties indie was. There's a lot of bands that have kind of quickly come and gone. But they're a band that seem to have survived, despite a lot of industry mechanics working against them. They've had multiple lineup changes over the years. They've changed their sound so much that they've naturally, like, as they gain followers, they've probably lost some of the fans that were enjoyed their previous sound. So they haven't really gotten any bigger. It's kind of still just like the people like me that's enjoyed everything that they've put out, and then people that kind of come in through like each project that they do and each kind of style of music that they do at that time, because they've kind of gone through kind of surf pop, like indie, to more psychedelic stuff on their second album. Then they returned to like some like gospel inspired indie on their third album, and then their last couple of records, it's kind of gone down this almost like bluesy indie. I would call it, with Bill Ryder Jones kind of at the helm, um, driving the ship forward. Um, so yeah, they've kind of, like I say, they've not really gotten any bigger, and they've all got day jobs now. So I think frontman Austin Williams runs a pub. James Balmont, who's the keyboardist, is like a film writer and journalist. So they all have like their own thing going on outside of music, which I guess is probably the nature of the beast these days for a lot of bands. Just to keep the lights on, as it were. But yeah, despite all that, I think their last album, which we did review on the podcast, I said at the time, the debut will always be my sentimental favorite because of like the time when it came out and everything like that. Um, but I thought the last record, There's a Big Star Outside, was their best work to date in terms of like the songcraft, the sound that they went for on that record. Like I say, with Bill Ryder Jones, just very classic, timeless songwriting. That album went on to be one of my most played albums of 2024. I think it finished in like my top 10 or 11 albums of the year for that year. And yeah, so far, I think with Hum, it's going to end up that way again. Since this album has dropped, I just keep finding myself drawn back to it. He even sent me on like a Swim Deep discography deep dive. Um, Genuinely just being through a period where I wanted to listen to nothing but these guys. Like I'm there scrolling through the albums that have released, and I just find myself wanting to put this one on again. It's really kind of grabbed hold of me. So yeah, I've not decided yet if I prefer it to There's a Big Star Outside, but I think it's certainly, my immediate reaction is that it's on par. And again, it's an album that contains some of their best work. Um, yeah, just so many beautiful moments lit across this record. Um, I won't go through them all, but in terms of highlights, starts really strong with the two singles, Pieces of You and You, Me and Mary. the type of songs that you feel like you've known them your whole life. They're like it's almost like they're from like a different time and got a warm familiarity to them. And yeah, if you read the stories behind those two tracks, it's quite devastating. You know, Pieces of You was about Austin's wife's father who passed away. And then You, Me and Mary is about again his wife Nell suffering a miscarriage on a family holiday. So to take like these quite traumatic events and turn them into these two like heartfelt, uplifting odes to like life and family and the strength to keep going. I think it's just such a beautiful thing. And that yeah, those two tracks just really adore. And then later on, Broken, which is probably my favorite song on here. Actually, not one written by Austin Williams, but their new guitarist JJ Buchanan, um, who yeah just seems to be a really brilliant songwriter. Because again, this is just such a beautifully heartbreaking song. There's that line that comes in at the end, which every time just hits me right in the gut, where it's like, "Come find me in the next life where I'm not so broken." Whenever that passage comes in towards the end, I'm like, God. It just hits me for six every time. And I think I've got to shout out Austin Williams as well, because I read an interview where he was saying that he struggled at first to sing words that he hadn't written, and it almost felt like odd to him because he's so used to obviously just performing the own songs that he writes, like to sing this song that the guitarist had written. He didn't feel comfortable with it at first, but on that song, I think his delivery of JJ's words, I think he really does them justice. So yeah, that Broken track, every time it comes on, it's just yeah, stunning for me. But yeah, a couple of others I just want to shout out as highlights. Final three songs. Is There Something Going On? Which again, when I was reading about the record, it sounds like this song was one that they almost scrapped as they couldn't get it how they wanted to for ages. Which I think there was a similar story on their last record as well, which ended up being one of the best tracks on that album too. So I think, yeah, again, I'm just glad that they stuck with it because I love the bluesy guitars on that track. Love the chorus. Easily one of the best songs on here for me. Um, we then get In Dreams Alive straight after, which has got like big shades of the Smiths. It's got like Austin channeling his inner Morrissey on the chorus, which I'm sure he'll hate me for saying that. If it's comparing someone to Morrissey in 2026 was probably like a no-go. But in terms of yeah, his vocal style, I was definitely getting the Smiths on that one. And then yeah, the last track I've got to mention as well, Lift Me Up, which like Broken is just another one that yeah, I just find absolutely stunning. That's one that they recorded live in the studio. Um and it's yeah, what we hear on there is like I think they only did two takes. So they literally just recorded it in the studio in one or two takes. So it's as ultra raw an acoustic track as you can get. And I think it's just a lovely way to end the record. Just lovely sentiment to that track. Real kind of simple, but uh again, timeless songwriting is what I'd say about it. So yeah, those are my highlights. But honestly, the whole record front to back is just fantastic for me. I think the only track on here that I'm not completely taken with is I Keep a Photograph with Me, which is that was one of the singles, and I do find myself kind of skipping that one for whatever reason. I think it just I think it's just one where it doesn't hit me as hard as, as some of the other tracks on here. So it's not necessarily bad, but yeah, it's just not connected in the same way as the others. But yeah, overall, right up there for me again with the year's best. And yeah, it's one of those where it's a band I love delivering another career best collection of songs. And yeah, already one of my most played albums of the year, and probably just keep playing it up until they play Bodega in September, and then probably play it even more after that as well. So, that's why I thought Swim Deep's Hum, but what did you think of this one?
Yeah, as you said, I love how they've they keep going. They've kept going since 2013. I remember when Honey came out,
Mm,
um, with Little Lad, and that's always been an iconic indie pop anthem that they made. So yeah, it's remarkable that they've just outlasted everyone pretty much in
mm.
that scene back then, and they're still creeping on, which is kudos to them because it's not cheap, and
Mm,
it's not easy to find the time to make a full album. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a finely balanced album. Um, I think I love how it blends pretty much everything that you can find in the sphere of indie.
mm,
So you got indie pop, you got shoegaze, yeah, you got moments pretty much in every genre here. There are moments that shine. As you said, Peace with You is lovely. Mud as well is a standout.
Mud, yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah, I think vocalist, you're right. Vocalist quite devastating. Um, yeah, again, it was one of those pause for reflection, stop working. But I personally, I don't feel I've done this album justice on my own. I've listened to it, I think twice.
Mm,
First time I wasn't really focused, so I've not had. I feel I'm not going to do it justice. But yeah, I know you're a fan, some deep. But yeah, it's a brilliantly balanced album. Um, but it just didn't, maybe because it didn't have that connection with. I didn't listen to them when I was younger.
mm,
But yeah, I didn't have the connection. This album was as much as the others on the list
yeah.
that we're talking about, but I still enjoyed it for what it is because I'm always a fan of indie pop. You can't really go wrong with it. Um, there are songs in here that are simplistic in design, and some that properly shine, as we've mentioned. But I'm just happy that they're continuing.
Mm,
It's nice to see a band still, as you say, they've all got jobs now, which is is pretty much the status quo
yeah.
of low to mid bands that are grinding it. Um, so yeah, I love the fact that they're carrying on doing what they love. Um, and it's not a band that once was that you talk about like at the pub.
Mm,
I remember these, they're still going,
yeah.
and that's a big kudos, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it almost feels like a bit of a renaissance. I mean, I saw obviously they're one of those bands that their debut album did really well, and then
Mhm.
they changed so much stylistically for the second album that a lot of people switched away from them at that point. They obviously then lost the original couple of the original members. Um, so, like I said, they have kind of stay stagnant in that way. But it does feel with these last two records that they've found something that's connecting. And I mean, certainly with critics, I mean, the reviews that this album's getting,
Mhm.
I think it's the best that they've had in their career. Enemy gave
Stop
it
being.
like
I need to.
5 stars,
Yeah.
which I mean, I think is warranted. Like I say, great collection here, and yeah, hopefully one that we'll both keep keep going back to and getting more out of.